Hello, Like the Way family. So, for today, I will cover the topic understanding functional hoarding when clutter conceals a deeper struggle. So, first, I would like to start by defining functional hoarding. And functional hoarding can also be known as the squalor syndrome or clutter blindness. And it's a condition that is characterized by the excessive acquisition or accumulation of possessions. And in some cases, clutter within one's living environment. So, what distinguishes functional hoarding from hoarding disorder is that the individual with functional hoarding can still maintain a functional or seemingly normal life, at least to some extent. So, despite the clutter or disarray in their living spaces. So, in functional hoarding, individuals may not experience the extreme distress or in impairment in daily functioning that is typically associated with hoarding disorder. So this may allow the person to be able to find and use essential items and use essential things, maintain basic hygiene, or even hold down a job or have uh, normal or healthy social relationships. However, their living spaces are usually crowded with possessions, making their space very limited or to look very crowded, even if the mess, quote unquote, is organized. So it is important to note that while functioning hoarding may not always lead to some level of distress and dysfunction as hoarding disorder, it can still have a negative impact on the individual's mental well being, physical health, and relationships. So, functional hoarding can have many causes, so including reluctance to discard items, sentimental attachment to possessions, or even coping mechanism for underlying emotional issues. So, it is essential to recognize the symptoms or the signs and seek help if someone is struggling with functional hoarding to prevent further deterioration of the living conditions and overall quality of life. So, now I would like to speak about the relationship between compulsive buying, emotional hoarding, and functional hoarding, which are interrelated. Which are interrelated aspects of a complex psychological phenomenon. So now I will speak a little bit deeper into how they are connected. So, first, compulsive buying. This is the core behavior and often the starting point. So, compulsive buying, also known as compulsive shopping or shopping addiction, involves irresistible urge to buy items, and it's frequently driven by emotional factors such as stress, anxiety, depression, or a need for excitement. So, individuals with this disorder or this condition experience a sense of relief or gratification when they're making these purchases, but it usually is short lived and leading to a cycle of buying and negative consequences. So now emotional hoarding, it's when we refer to the emotional attachment people develop from the possessions. So in the context of compulsive buying, individuals may form deeper or deep emotional connections with the items they acquire. So these attachments are often related to initial emotions or feelings that trigger the buying behavior. So, for example, it's some if someone buys a particular item where they're feeling sad, they might become emotionally attached to the item because it reminds them the momentary relief from the sadness. So, functional hoarding, as we described earlier, it occurs when individuals rationalize their excessive buying by assigning practical purposes to the items they acquire. So they use it on a daily basis, and that's the reason why they don't believe it's a hoarding. This rationalization might be an attempt to justify the behavior. So, for instance, someone who has compulsive buying or is compulsively buying clothing may convince themselves that they need a vast wardrobe for many reasons or many occasions, and that they will eventually use all the items, which is a form of cognitive distortion, and it is used to cope with emotional aspects of compulsive buying. So now the link between emotional hoarding, functional hoarding, compulsive buying, and stress, especially in the context of childhood trauma, is complex and has many layers. So I like to connect it and to see what is the correlation between one and another and why they occur. So here's how these factors can be interconnected. So, compulsive buying often serves as a trigger for emotional and functional hoarding. So, as compulsive buyers acquire more and more items, they may develop strong emotional connections to their purchases, like I said before, which can provide a temporary sense of comfort or happiness. These emotional attachments are reinforced by the belief that the items serve as practical functions, and even if those functions are often exaggerated or unrealistic. So, over time, this behavior can lead to cluttered living spaces, financial strain, and even emotional distress. So, it is essential to recognize these interconnections when we are addressing compulsive buying disorder. Treatment typically involves therapy and support to break the cycle of compulsive buying. So it will untangle also emotional attachments and challenge the cognitive distortions that fuel functioning hoarding. So, by addressing this aspect, individuals with compulsive buying can work towards healthier buying habits and improve emotional well being overall. So stress and trauma are often a trigger to hoarding behavior. So whether it's functional or emotional hoarding or even compulsive buying. So childhood trauma, spanning experiences like abuse, neglect, or witnessing traumatic events can deeply affect the individual's emotional well-being and mental health. So such trauma often leaves individuals who are more susceptible to stress and challenges in emotional regulation. So, in response to stress, some individuals may resort to compulsive buying because it's a coping mechanism that is offering temporary relief from the emotional distress and also leads to that, or it can lead to negative consequences. So when we have emotional hoarding, it can arise from a need to hold onto positive emotions associated with the purchased items. So serving as a source of comfort. Meanwhile, functional hoarding may manifest as an attempt to regain control, and it gives the individual a sense of preparedness in the face of unpredictability. So, together, these dynamics illustrate how past traumatic events or past trauma, it can be either childhood trauma, can intertwine with coping strategies, emotional attachment to possessions, and control seeking behaviors. So, in functional hoarding, is often linked to various emotional issues that drive and perpetuate the behavior. So, while the specific emotional issues can vary from person to person, common emotional challenges associated with functional and emotional hoarding are anxiety, like I said before, depression, but also attachment and sentimentality. So many functional hoarders form strong emotional attachment to their possessions and they view them as an extension of themselves. And they use them or see them as a source of comfort. Letting go of these items can be emotionally challenge, challenging. So, perfectionism. Some individuals with functional hoarding have perfectionistic tendencies where they feel that they must keep everything that they have or that they need to organize perfectly, which can be paralyzing and contribute to clutter. Trauma and loss, past traumatic experiences or significant losses can contribute to functional hoarding. Holding on to possessions that may be a way of coping with unresolved emotional pain or to fill a void that was left from a loss of someone or any traumatic event. So avoidance is another one, avoidance and procrastination when we have functional hoarders or emotional hoarders, it can be a way of avoiding dealing with difficult emotion or past trauma. So the clutter can serve as a distraction from addressing deeper emotional issues. Also, it provides control and security. For some individuals, hoarding provides a sense of control and security in an unpredictable world. So, possessions can become a source of comfort and stability. So, the sentimental attachment to possessions can deeply ingrain and complex emotional response. There are several reasons why forms of sentimental attachments to the belongings, or why do people tend to um, get attached to, sentimentally attached to possessions. So it could be an emotional significance. Having the possessions often carry an emotional significance because they are associated with a specific memory, an event, or a person. So, for example, a piece of jewelry that a loved one gave to someone, it might hold a sentimental value because it reminds the person of the owner. And also the affection and the relationship the person had with that other person. But it can give also a sense of nostalgia because objects can evoke feelings of nostalgia because it transports the individual back to the particular time in their lives when they were happy or experiencing a significant event. So, holding on to these items from the past can be a way of preserving those positive memories. Security and comfort. Some people find, like I said, security and comfort in their possessions, but familiar objects can provide a sense of stability and safety because, especially during times of change, and also identity and self expression. A person who's holding possessions can reflect aspects of a person's identity and also self expression. It could be clothing, artwork, collectibles, and things like that. It can also be that whatever they have, whatever the belonging is, represent a person's interests, their values, or their style. Attachment to loved ones. Items associated with loved ones who have passed away or no longer present can be a reason why the person is holding on that possession. Fear of loss. So, the fear of regretting the decision to discard an item often leads the person to a sentimental attachment and not being able to let go. So, people may worry that they will miss the item when it's gone, or they might need it once it's gone, even if they haven't used it for years. And lastly, it has an emotional coping mechanism. It provides emotional coping mechanism. So for some individuals, holding onto possessions in a way to cope with emotional difficulties and traumas. And the items may provide a source of emotional support and a sense of control. So now I will provide 6 signs that you might have functional or organized hoarding. And these signs are: you may have more than one thing. You may have more than one of everything. Let's say set of let's say sweater. I have more than enough. I have various types of sweater. Or having pen, I have many pens. And or having one item, but more than one of that item. So another sign is you're running out of storage and living space. When you don't have space and you're trying to make space where there is no space. You're not throwing things out, but you're bringing more things inside, and you're getting short of space, of living space. Number 3 will be you have the struggle of letting things go. If you have a hard time throwing it out or letting it go or just passing it to someone else, you might have functional hoarding. Number 4, your home feels like a storage unit. Big bins of clothing, big armories of clothing, shoes, or house items and things that you have on site and out of sight. Number 5, you spend more time looking for things that you will like to admit. So let's say you're looking for that specific white sweater, but you have so many sweaters that you can't find the sweater that you're looking for, or any other item. And number 6 is that your friends and family are concerned. If someone or loved one is concerned that you are accumulating many things or many possessions, it might be an indication that you are functionally hoarding. So, what do we do if we have a problem with organized hoarding? So, the first step is admitting that you have a problem. And once you've done this, it's time to start decluttering your organized hoarder house. So, this is a huge mind shift. It won't happen in a day. First, you need to relax and focus and getting rid of the things that you have don't necessarily needs to happen in one day. So you need to take one day at a time. You need to find the perfect, not the perfect, but you need to find the way that you can feel comfortable with what you're doing and you can feel in control, in a sense, of what you're doing. So instead of trying to find the perfect new organization solution to keep everything, it will be better for you to find a way of letting go of some things, now reorganizing everything that you have. So here are some tips for decluttering your organized hoard. So start small. Don't try to declutter your entire house at once. Remember, start one drawer at a time, one bin at a time, one closet at a time, one room at a time. Keep a tight focus to avoid thought overwhelm. So for you not to feel overwhelmed, don't start taking everything out and then you have everything laying on your bed and you don't know what to do with it. You have to go one thing at a time. Limit your decluttering session. So try decluttering 10 minutes or 10 items a day and make it slow, do it slow, and it really works from clearing clutter in a stress-free way. Like I said, um starting little by little, it's better than starting in big chunks. Be honest with yourself. Ask yourself if you really need the item, but do you really need the item? And start with the less meaningful objects, and it will be easier for you to get into a decluttering mindset. So start with the little things, or the most insignificant, in a way you can say, or the things that has less values, and ask yourself and be honest with yourself. And another one is donate, donate, donate. If any item is still usable, but you no longer need it, or you haven't used it in a couple of months, that means it can go to the donation bin. So give it to people who actually need it. Go to local thrift stores, charity organizations, schools, even in your community. There's bins that you can donate um, these type of items. So it's okay to donate bins that hold that much stuff. It's okay to let go. So, in the last one, appreciate open spaces. You will have to actively work on this and let more and more items go. So, you have to be okay with having an open space. You don't need to fill it up. You don't need to put nothing else in that space. You don't need to have anything else in there. So once you declutter and the space is clean, don't replace it. Don't put something else. So I hope that you had enjoyed this class. Remember, we are Like the Way Counseling Center, and we would like to help you. If you are one of those individuals who are struggling with functional hoarding or even emotional hoarding, we can help. So you can go to our website, likethewaycounseling.com, and you can find us there. You can also email us, or you can find us on Instagram, Like the Way Counseling, or even in YouTube. You can send us a message on the chat. So I hope this has been a very educational class for you, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.